So today we're going to try to compare MSTY to MST. And the MSTY is the YieldMax income strategy, and the MST is the Defiance income strategy. And both use the underlying of MSTR, Mr. Hello my friends, this is Legend. So today we're going to take a look and compare MSTY, which is the YieldMax ETF strategy income, versus the MST Defiance income strategy. And we're going to try to compare the two and see what the differences are. So as we know with MSTY, they use synthetic shares to write their covered calls against. So they do not actually own the shares, and therefore they have to close those options. Those call options that they have cannot be exercised. They must close those because they do not want to own the shares of MSTR. They only write the calls against the synthetic shares. And we'll pull up that sheet and I can show you where that synthetic shares is coming from. So here on the distribution rate, we're seeing about 130%. We know that their last distribution paid out was $2.37, and MSTY, MSTY, pays out every 4 weeks. They have a net assets of about $3.98 billion, so it's a very large piggy bank. Their NAV being 23.68. And the one thing to point out here is that expense ratio. They have a 0.99% expense ratio. So that would be one of the things that we're going to be looking at to compare against MST, along with the net assets being at 3.9. Okay, so to look at the holdings here, as I wanted to show you what I meant by the synthetic, how that is created, you can download the all holdings here from the site. And when you download that, you'll get a spreadsheet and it will look like this. All right, so here we are on that downloaded spreadsheet, and I have highlighted the two here. So as you can see here, they have this 390 put and they have a 420 put that they sold, and then they've got a 390 call and a 420 call that they bought. So by doing so, they can use that in order to simulate owning the shares of Mr. And by doing so, they can write the cover calls. But as I said, they do not want those cover calls to go through, so they do have to close them. And as we can see here, these are the covered calls that they have, and you can see that they have those calls set at 415, 420, 425, 430, 435, 440, and 450. All to expire on the 23rd, right here, 25 being the year, 05 being the month, 23 being the day. So May the 23rd, 2025 is when those will expire. So as long as MSTR does not get above the 415, then this one here will expire worthless if they run it all the way out to expiration, and so forth. That one being the lowest. But currently, the price of Mr. is at 416. So right now, this one here is a little bit in the money. So we'll see, do they go ahead and close that one, or do they wait it out? And if they do close it, then they'll have to take a slight loss on it because it did go above their call here. But if the other ones, the 420 all the way up to 450 does not hit, or the price of Mr. does not quite get up to those points, then those will expire worthless by the 23rd. But my main point here of what I wanted to show was the synthetics, by selling the puts and buying the calls, creates the simulation of owning shares so that they can then write calls against those synthetic shares. So we're back onto the YieldMax site here for MSTY. So let's just go ahead and slide over to MST and see what their website shows. So we're on MST, and this is Defiance MST, which uses the underlying of MSTR as well. Now the first thing to note is on MSTY, they pay out every 4 weeks. So once every 4 weeks. MST, as you can see right here on the front screen, they will pay out a weekly distribution. So once a week, they will pay out a distribution. Now that sounds good, but we'll see what is that distribution. And since this is a new fund, we don't really have a whole lot of history and data on it. So definitely keep that in mind. So as we know, MST also sells calls against MSTR. So for MST, as you can see, they have a net asset value of 41.87 million. So their piggy bank is much smaller versus MSTY with the 3.98 billion with a B, and MST has 41.87 million with an M. But also keep in mind, it's only been out for about 20 days, as the fund inception is on May 1st, is a net asset value of $22.33 with the closing price of $22.40, and that was yesterday's closing price. As you can see, the data is as of May the 19th for the website, and the expense ratio for MST is 1.31. So I think that is something to also note, of that higher expense ratio of 1.31%. And looking at their holdings here, just off the front page here, looks like they have a 450 call, they have a 420 call, and a 430 call. So all three of those so far are still good, as the current price being 416 on Mr. So since the fund is smaller, they only are showing 3 here. Now we can download the full holdings, but we're just going to go off of what they're showing on the front page here. And they are showing a distribution. So MST announced their distributions today. They will go X on Wednesday, and then will pay out on Thursday the 22nd. Unlike MSTY, where MSTY will announce on the 21st, being Wednesday, X date would be the 22nd, which is a Thursday, and then they will pay out on Friday the 23rd. Now we know MSTY paid out $2.37. That was for a 4-week period, and it looks like MST is paying out 33 cents for a 1-week amount. So in comparison, if they did 33.5 cents every week for 4 weeks, let's see what that totals up to. So we can say 0.3350 times 4, because we're going to compare it with MSTY, and MSTY paid out $2.37. So in comparison, we can say that MST, if they pay out that same 33.5 cents per share every week for the next 4 weeks, you will get a $1.34 distribution for that 4-week period. Now, of course, the one for MSTY, MSTY, was for the previous 4 weeks, right? And this one is for this recent week. So it may not be right to compare the two like that, but this is their first distribution, so we're just using that as a comparison. So if MSTY pays out on the next round and it pays less than $1.34 for that distribution payout, then if MST kept with that 33 cents every week, they will have outshined MSTY. But of course, you know, even next week, MST could do 50 cents, right? So in about 3 or 4 more weeks, we'll take a look and we'll see if we can actually compare it a little bit better. If we can get 4 weeks of payout on MST and compare it with what MSTY will pay out. So that's something that we can do in a few weeks from now. So let's just slide over to the charts and we'll check to see, as far as graph wise, what does it look like between the two. All right, so we're looking at the actual price here for MSTY, and it closed today at $23.79. So it went up 0.85%. And what did MST do? Well, MST went up 1.47%. So a very nice move. It looks like it did better than MSTY for the day, but we'll have to see how it goes as time goes on, and we can get some more data on MST. As you can see, there's not much here really to look at. It's only been a few weeks versus MSTY, where we have been out for quite a while now, right? A little over a year. Now I've switched it over to the adjusted chart here to look at the indicators. And as you can see here for MSTY, we are below that signal line on MSTY. We do have a little red momentum, but the RSI is turning up slightly. And let's compare that with MST. So MST here, we actually got a bounce off of that signal line. It is moving up. The momentum is increasing. And we do not have enough information really for the RSI 14, as it would need 14 candles. And as you can see here, including today, there's only 13 candles. So that's what I mean by it hasn't been out long. So we'll give it some time and we'll see how MST does. I don't personally have MST in my portfolio, but could it be another one to add? Well, the fact that it does pretty much what MSTY does, the main difference being MST does have a higher expense ratio, and the other main difference is it's two different companies, so it all depends on their experience and how well they are to manage the fund. So over time, we will find out who does best, Defiance or YieldMax, using MSTR for their underlying of their fund. So before we wrap this one up, let's just take a quick look at Bitcoin. And as you can see, Bitcoin, it did have a drop today. It dropped down to about 104,000, but then shot right back up, broke 107,000, and right now it is just teetering on that 107,000 mark right there. So Bitcoin is moving up. We are getting a little bit of a cross here. Looks like it might cross up. The momentum here is decreasing on the red and getting ready to go green. So that's some nice bullish signs for Bitcoin. But of course, it all depends on who does what, who says what, and then cause Bitcoin to drop, therefore causing MSTY and MST to drop. It all depends on the news and whatnot. So I think I'm going to wrap it up right there. So if you don't mind hitting that subscribe button, smash the like button, be much appreciated. And as always, I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Please do your own due diligence before you get into any stock plays. And until next time, legend out. And we just hit 107.